3 matches. That is all that separates Alex Eala from the biggest week of her professional career. But here is the strange part. The most difficult challenge may not be her next opponent. It may not be the semifinal. It may not even be the final. Because throughout Alex Eala's career, one obstacle has appeared every time she has come close to something bigger. And until she finally overcomes it, history will have to wait. This week in Washington is about far more than winning another tennis tournament. Yes, the champion receives 500 WTA ranking points. Yes, there is significant prize money. And yes, lifting a WTA 500 trophy would become the biggest title of Alex's professional career. But none of those rewards explain why this tournament feels different. If Alex Eala wins in Washington, she will become the first Filipina to win a WTA 500 singles title. That is not just another record. It is a milestone that has never existed in Philippine tennis. For years, Alex has worked toward opportunities exactly like this. Every junior success, every difficult defeat, every lesson learned on the professional tour, every victory over higher-ranked opponents. Each one has quietly prepared her for this moment. But professional tennis has a habit of asking one final question. Not when you begin a tournament, when you're close to finishing it. Alex no longer needs to prove she belongs among the world's best. She already has. Over the last stages of her career, she has defeated some of the biggest names in women's tennis, including Iga Swiatek, Elena Rybakina, Alina Svitolina, Zheng Qinwen, and Leylah Fernandez. Those victories changed how the tennis world looked at Alex Eala. More importantly, they changed what people expect from her. Winning against elite players is no longer the surprise. Now the expectation is something much bigger. Can she turn those victories into a championship? That is where this story truly begins. Winning one unforgettable match is difficult. Winning another a day later is even harder. Winning an entire WTA 500 tournament requires something completely different. Consistency, recovery, patience, decision-making, and the ability to stay calm when every point starts carrying more pressure than the last. That is why Washington is different from every tournament Alex has already won. A WTA 125 title proves a player can succeed at a high professional level. A WTA 500 title proves she can survive one of the strongest fields on the tour. Every round becomes tougher. Every opponent believes she can win the trophy. Every mistake becomes more expensive. And every victory raises the pressure for the next match. That is why this journey is not simply about playing 3 more matches. It is about surviving 3 completely different tests. And the first one may be much more dangerous than most people realize. Part 2 almost equals 440 words. The first test is not dangerous because of the name across the net. It is dangerous because every remaining player has already earned the right to be here. At this stage of a WTA 500 tournament, rankings matter less than execution. One player may build points with patience. Another may attack from the very first shot. Another may rely on experience during the biggest moments. For Alex Eala, the challenge is not finding one perfect strategy. It is recognizing the problem early and adjusting before the match changes direction. That ability has become one of the biggest improvements in her game. Over the past year, Alex has shown she can adapt instead of forcing the same plan against every opponent. Against powerful hitters, she has redirected pace instead of matching power. Against aggressive players, she has opened the court with angles and movement. Against experienced defenders, she has stayed patient until the right opportunity appeared. Those adjustments rarely become the biggest headlines, but they often decide who keeps moving through a tournament. If Alex clears that opening test, the challenge immediately changes. Not because the next opponent is always stronger, because by then, the tournament begins demanding something no draw can measure. Energy. Every long rally leaves another mark on the body. Every explosive movement requires recovery. Every emotional comeback consumes concentration. By the final stages of a tournament, players are not only competing against opponents, they're competing against fatigue. This is why experienced champions pay as much attention to recovery as they do to practice. Sleep becomes part of preparation. Nutrition becomes part of preparation. Recovery sessions become part of preparation. Small decisions away from the court often decide the biggest moments on it. Then comes another challenge that never appears on the schedule: expectation. With every victory, the spotlight grows larger. Fans begin to imagine history. The media begins asking bigger questions. Every match feels more important than the last. Managing those expectations is one of the hardest skills in professional tennis. Alex has handled pressure before. She has faced Grand Slam champions. She has competed on major stages. She has carried the hopes of an entire nation every time she steps onto the court. Those experiences do not guarantee another victory, but they do provide something every champion needs: belief built on experience. That belief could become one of Alex's greatest strengths as this tournament reaches its decisive moments. Because the real obstacle standing between her and history is not only another player. It is the ability to recover, adapt, and stay composed when the pressure becomes greater with every passing match. And if she can overcome that challenge, only one final question will remain. Can she finish what she started? Part 3 almost equals 430 words. Everything now leads to one final test. Not whether Alex Eala can compete with the world's best. She has already answered that question. Not whether she can defeat top-ranked players. Her victories have already proved that. The only question left is the one every future champion must eventually face. Can she finish the journey? A championship match is different from every other match in a tournament. The pressure is different. The expectations are different. Every point feels heavier because every point moves a player either closer to history or farther away from it. That is why winning titles requires more than talent. It requires discipline when emotions are at their highest. It requires confidence without becoming careless. And it requires trusting the game that brought you to the final in the first place. This is where Alex has shown clear progress. She has become calmer during difficult moments. She has shown greater patience in long rallies. Instead of allowing one mistake to control the next point, she has learned to reset and move forward. That improvement may not appear on every statistic sheet, but it often separates contenders from champions. If Alex continues making smart decisions, managing her energy, and staying mentally composed, she gives herself a genuine chance to achieve something no Filipina has achieved before at this level. The rewards speak for themselves. 500 WTA ranking points, a significant rise in the rankings, valuable momentum heading toward the US Open. But the greatest reward cannot be measured by numbers. It would become another historic milestone for Philippine tennis. For young players watching across the country, it would provide something powerful, proof that reaching the highest level is possible, proof that competing for major titles is no longer just a dream. That is why these 3 matches mean so much. They are not simply the final rounds of one tournament. They represent years of preparation, improvement, and belief coming together at exactly the right moment. Will Alex Eala lift the trophy? Professional tennis never promises the perfect ending. Every opponent is capable of producing an outstanding performance. Every match brings a new challenge. That uncertainty is what makes every championship so difficult to win. But one fact remains impossible to ignore. Alex Eala no longer arrives at big tournaments hoping she belongs. She arrives knowing she can compete with anyone. Now, she stands only 3 matches away from answering the question that opened this story. What has been standing between Alex Eala and history? Not talent, not opportunity, but proving she can finish the biggest week of her career. Now, the answer can only come on the court. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more in-depth Alex Eala features, match breakdowns, and every major chapter of her journey. Because the next time history is written, you won't want to miss it.